the Broken Valor podcast, formerly Shooting the Dirt. I am your host, Brian Shink, and joining me today is a big-ish TikToker who's also into film and stuff of that nature. So, if you wouldn't mind, I have already forgotten your name. Good God.
Hi, my name is Hunter Ferris. I worked for a year as a professional award-winning director, and now I talk about movies with wholesome analysis on TikTok. Or rather, I do wholesome film analysis on TikTok.
This has started very rockly, but hey, it's the first episode of the new format. So, but before we get started, however, today's episode is sponsored by Anchor.fm. Stick around to the end of the episode to see how you can start making your own podcasts with Anchor FM. All right,
Dude, congratulations on getting the sponsorship.
Well,
That's awesome.
it's with Anchor FM, you get the sponsorship at like whenever you start a podcast. So like anyone who uses the site gets the sponsorship. But I really like it because it allows you to make money pretty much instantly when you start making a podcast. Although it's like 15 cents for every 1,000 views or so, I think is what it was, but still better than nothing.
Yeah,
especially for a beginning. And they also they'll take your podcast and they'll find you sponsors and send them to you, and then you can sign them and do deals and stuff for them. Like you can get Spotify to sponsor you. I've seen people get Nike through Anchor FM. What I would really like is to have like either like a pop culture person, so like Displates would be a nice one, or just I don't know, a food company. I don't even need money at that point. Just send me bags of food and I'll be fine.
Right. Yeah, I used to run a podcast a couple years ago, so I kind of know. I kind of know where you're coming from about sponsorship.
Right. And also, before we get started, I have over here. I'm gonna be drinking a Mexican Coke that I got at the dollar store. It's my favorite kind of Coke. But to make it a little bit more interesting, I'm gonna try and open this thing with this crystal that I bought at a county fair just this year. And if that doesn't work, I have a bottle opener over here, but we're gonna try it.
Okay, let's see how this goes.
Okay, I can't really get much leverage. From what I've seen, these things are harder to open than like a bottle of beer, and I don't understand it. Hey! I got it!
Yay! You did it!
Oh, that was a lot harder than I expected it to be. Alright, so, Mr. Hunter, you say that you are an award-winning film. So, okay, I guess we'll start off with what position have you worked on in the film industry? I know this wasn't on the sheet, but I completely spaced on some of these questions.
Hey, what positions haven't I done in the film industry? I mostly was a PA, extra, or writer, director, producer. I also spent a lot of time as a boom operator / sound engineer, as a grip. My work as a PA also involved me working as a craft services PA, which was one of my favorite positions to work in, because when you work in craft services, you are everyone's favorite person on set, because you have all the food. And you give them food.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Also because craft service is like an oasis from the stress of set. You go over to Crafty and you're like, okay, I don't have to worry about getting that light in the right spot. I don't have to worry about the politics of set. I don't have to worry about anything. I can just enjoy being at craft services. It's wonderful. Or working as an assistant to the COVID compliance officer. I had a goal, actually, to try to do literally every position on set.
That's a good goal, actually.
Because, like, I was also working as a director / producer, and I wanted to be able to direct them well and give them what they needed. And working as a grip taught me that when I'm directing, I need to not rush the grips. Like, That's how long their thing takes. They know how long their thing takes. Just let them do their thing. And don't tell them, dude, you only have 15 more minutes. This thing takes 45 minutes. Let it take 45 minutes. Or like, as a producer, I gave myself a rule to never let a shoot go over 8 hours, because I had been a PA who would get like physically or mentally ill because of long hours on set. And so I'd say, nope, no, 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 I'm not letting that happen to anybody else. Because of my experience in lower positions, I'm going to make sure to treat people better. And that's why I had a rule to try to do literally every position on set. I did not get anywhere close to succeeding, but I got decently proficient as a jack of all trades and a master of a few.
Well, that's really good. So, what is a grip exactly? Because I know what a boom operator is, craft made, director, producer, obviously basic stuff. I don't know what a grip is though. So, can you explain what that position entails?
A grip deals with lights, but not with electricity.
Mm.
So, like, a grip might move around the stands that a grip might move around the stand that a light is on, or a grip might put the light on the stand, or that sort of general stuff. It mostly deals with like lights and stands, also with like scrims or flags, which are big sheets of fabric that they use to kind of tamper down some lights or to black out some lights entirely. In general, it's a job about shaping the light, but not about electricity. You're not allowed to like plug in the light as a grip. You're
Okay,
not allowed to set up the extension cord as a grip. That's for the electricians to do, and there are a lot of
gotcha.
people who work in G and E grip and electric, also called swing, because you swing back and forth between grip and electric. But generally, it's I work with the light, but I don't work with the electricity.
Okay, so you're the oh, I had it. Um, we'll come back to that when I get it because I don't want to take too many long pauses.
No worries, no worries.
All right. So we're gonna start off with the questions that I have on my phone, the ones that I sent to you, and then
Woo!
I'll probably have some more questions along the way. Just when they come to come to ugh. If I could speak English, it would be a little bit easier. If they come to mind.
That
All right.
that is the consistent curse of the podcast host. As soon as you
God.
press record, your English goes out the window.
Oh, but like I didn't start my online career as a podcast host. I started at age 12 as a YouTuber. Like if you go onto my YouTube channel, you can find my oldest post from like 2015, 14. It's it's an old one. It's been a while. Actually, I think it might have been longer than that. But it's a Mind Blocks video, not Minecraft. Mind Blocks, a completely different game with the same premise, and you could hear how different my voice sounds now from then. It's also my most viewed one
I
with
bet.
400 views, which is insane to think about. Um,
Nice, nice.
it's not good though. It's not good. But even like
Good thing too.
as of recently, I've been trying to get back into YouTube. That's why the whole rebranding happened. Like, the name of this podcast is also the name of my new YouTube channel, which I'm making. But we're getting off topic. Okay, so
No worries, no worries.
all right. So, what drew you into the film industry to begin with? Let's start with that.
Ever since I was a little kid, I loved bonus features and commentaries. I loved the behind the scenes stuff. They always made everything look so cool. They would like glamorize and romanticize like the prosthetics department or the props department or even just like the PAs and the grips. They would make everything look so cool. Even
Hmm.
I don't know, the boom operator would be treated with as much glamour as a red carpet entrance for an actor, and I loved it, and I wanted to be in that field because they made it look so cool. And so when I actually got into the film industry, every once in a while I would turn to one of my fellow crew members and say, "My life is a bonus feature."
Oh,
Uh,
ooh, that
More
would.
specifically, at some point, I got to a point in my life where what's the phrase? Where my finances had changed so much that I didn't really have to work. My entire budget was like $500 a month.
Oh, that would be
I could.
so nice.
Oh yeah, it was great. And so I thought to myself, I can do whatever I want for work. I could like go be a podcaster, and if I get decent success as a podcaster and only like $500 a month, that's enough. That's all I need. And so I
Right.
said like, okay, what do I want to do? I've always wanted to work in film. Let's go try that. Let's go work in film.
That's awesome. I wish that there was definitely a time where my budget was under $500. I was 7. I'm now 19, almost 20, and I don't own. So I live with my parents right now. I'm in my parents' house. This is my room in their house. My budget, my car payment in and of itself is $130 for full coverage. The car is paid off, but I'm paying my dad back because there was an issue last year. I was working for DoorDash, and the car went kaput, so we had to go buy a new one. So I'm currently still paying that thing off. I've got a ways to go. But even without that payment, paying $130 on insurance, like $100 on my phone bill, paying it off, and the plan itself, and then apparently I can eat like $300 worth of food just as myself. So that's $500, and I live in my parents' house. So I couldn't imagine living just on my own for $500. That would be insane. I'd be like a homeless guy living under a bridge at that point.
I have the absolute cheapest rent in the area, and I have super cheap car insurance, and I'm really good at budgeting. You get the idea.
Right.
My brother actually did live with our parents for the first like 5 years of his film career.
Hmm.
Then after he got to a point where he was successful enough where he could move out, and after he got to a point where it was a good idea to move out, he moved out, and he was making good enough money in film that he could just live on his own on film alone.
Now that's what I would like. That's one of these days. And I was talking to you before the show about what my goal is. I'm trying to get in contact with somebody to start making film. The awesome part about it is I live in Ohio. He lives in West Virginia. If this were to go through and I were to start making movies with him, he would drive me out or move me out to West Virginia, put me up in his studio, which is like a massive complex out in the West Virginia mountains. Beautiful area. I've seen it on like some of his vlogs and stuff. But after a while, I'd probably want to buy my own house. But even then, like working out there would be nice. And so I could try to find the cheapest rent in the area, but it's upwards of $600 for a studio apartment out where I work. And I live 35 minutes from where I work. I drive over half an hour every morning to work 8 hours a day on my feet in a plastic factory, to then drive half an hour back home and sit on a couch. Well, now I get to sit on a couch. Yesterday, this wasn't here. So I had to move it up from the basement less than 24 hours ago, and I'm on the second floor. But no, we keep getting sidetracked.
No worries, no worries.
All right. So all right, next question. What are some of the films that have inspired you in your creation and in your career, I guess, as a filmmaker?
So I'm gonna give three specific examples that do wildly different things. The first is Isn't It Romantic, the Rebel Wilson movie from 2019. I love metafiction. I am a strong advocate for metafiction, being fiction that keeps reminding you that it's fiction. And Isn't It Romantic really inspired me to actually try out metafiction and showed me like how it works and what the strengths of that style are. So that once I started making films, I said, you know what, I kind of want to do some meta stuff. The second is, and this is partly just because he's my favorite director right now, Your Name, the 2016 body swap anime.
Ooh.
It is beautiful, it is delightful, and a huge part of the reason why is because I would love to get the kind of deep emotional vulnerability that director trademarks, that director has built his career on. I would love to do that someday. And the third is A Fistful of Fingers, which I know nobody has heard of. You've heard of A Fistful of Fingers?
From you, I'm pretty sure, from one of your videos.
Okay.
But no, I have heard of it from before then. I've never seen it. But I heard someone talking about it, saying it was like a really good bad movie, sort of. At least I think that's what they were talking about. Like, you got those movies where it's like it's so bad it's good, and I heard like that's one of them. But I have no idea
Well,
because I
I
haven't
hope.
seen it.
I mean, it's available for free on YouTube, and that's not piracy because no one was ever making money off this thing in the first place.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
okay, so A Fistful of Fingers is Edgar Wright's first feature film. You might know Edgar Wright
Mm.
for Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Baby Driver, Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead.
And
Um,
almost the Ant-Man
he's coming
films. Oh, that would have been
almost
so.
the Ant-Man films.
That
He's
would have been
coming out with a
awesome.
new film this year called Last Night in Soho. He just did the Sparks Brothers documentary, which the only people who care are people who love Edgar Wright and the Sparks Brothers. Anyway, so his first feature film, A Fistful of Fingers, it's like 65 minutes long. It's barely a feature film. It counts,
It does
and the
count.
film is based. And the film is basically Monty Python Goes West.
Oh, all
So
that. Ooh.
it is exactly as much fun as you think Monty Python Goes West would be. It's Edgar Wright and his school friends getting together on weekends to make a Western movie. And part of the reason why I say this film inspires me to create is because this film is very clearly and obviously made with love for the fellow filmmakers. You can tell
Right.
that everybody in this film loves working on this film because they're good friends who get to hang out together and get to spend time making a Western movie. And the other reason is because you can tell this film was made with love toward the art. Like, you can tell that everybody on set just loves Western movies. And they're
Right.
just like, dude, I get to make a fistful of dollars. I get to make for a few dollars more. I get to make Quigley Down Under. I get to like work on a Western movie. This is amazing. And I'm like, I want to do something like that. I want to do something where everybody on set can just find joy in making this film. And so I called up a bunch of my friends and I was like, hey, you like heist movies? Want to make an absolutely terrible heist movie with me?
Oh,
Like, I don't pretend this is
nice.
gonna be good, but we are all gonna have a great time making it, and
Right.
that's what really matters to me. Because I'm asking them like, okay, what do you think would be cool? What do you want to do in this movie? And so like one guy was like, can I crawl through a vent? And I'm like,
Ooh.
yes, we're gonna get you to crawl through a vent. And one guy was like, can I like one guy was like, "Can I do a car chase?" And I'm like, "I have no idea how to do a car chase. We're all gonna put our heads together and figure out how to do a car chase." Honestly, like for A Fistful of Fingers has been one of the biggest inspirations for my filmmaking career so far. I am so glad that Edgar Wright hasn't taken it off YouTube like he did for I Want to Go to the Movies.
Here's the best way you can do a car chase in a low budget film. It's shot like a high speed action chase, but all of your actors are in those little cars you buy at Walmart for your children. But it's shot in such an energetic manner that you feel it's like the thing from Boss Baby. That one scene from Boss Baby.
Honestly, that would be so funny to see if you like tear away the artifice for literally one shot
It's
and
just
show
like
that it's just a bunch of Matchbox Hot Wheels.
oh no, not the Matchbox Hot Wheels. The you know the cars that like you buy your children they can get inside of and drive. Those things. You have like because they've got Jeeps, they've got cop cars, they've got sports cars and stuff you can buy, and like they're a couple $100 for each one. But I mean, it's a lot cheaper than taking your actual cars, renting a cop car, closing down an entire street for 3 days while you film, and you could do this all in a parking lot, or if you know the manager of the Walmart, do it inside the Walmart. that that would be perfect.
that that just sounds like fun.
It definitely would be. Um, but on you were talking about when you and your friends got together to make this heist film. I actually tried doing this once. Now I don't have many friends outside of like people on the internet who I know who live in like Asia or Europe. But they're really more acquaintances than friends. The only true friends that I have are my friend. One friend lives about 25 minutes from me, and another friend I haven't talked to in a while. He lives 25 minutes in the other direction. But me and the first friend I was talking about, well, I'll name him Steve, just to keep his identity You know what? He's been on the podcast. Screw it. It was my original co-host, Philip. But literally both the people that I'm talking about were co-hosts on this podcast at one point. So we'll just say it. His name's Philip. Me and him wanted to make a film. Or technically, I wanted to make a film. But he goes along with my shenanigans, and I go along with his shenanigans. Because he's an engineer. I want to be a filmmaker. I had written up this entire script for, well, almost an entire. It was 50% done for a superhero movie. It was, what if a teenager got super speed without a villain? And the whole film was going to be this teenager with super speed doing what a teenager with super speed would do. So, he's going to a party. He sees a girl that he likes there. He quickly runs home, gets changed into a suit, and comes rushing back. He goes to a baseball field. He's not good at sports, but he uses his super speed to do the time in a bottle sequence where he hits the ball with the bat and then runs around messing with all the basemen and the outfielders, runs back, sits down on the bench, and they all go flying backwards. And it was also going to have a scene where
That's just fun.
It was going to be amazing. And my favorite scene from the entire thing that I was going to do was it was going to take place in a library. And the character with speed was going to say to his friend, who was going to be played by my friend Philip, I was going to play the character with super speed. Don't know why. I'm not a good actor. But he was going to say, hey, I bet you $10 I can read every single book in this library. And he does that. And we're going to watch him like super speed through the library, like picking up all the books and reading them and flipping through them. He's going to get back to his friend. And his friend is going to say, wow, that didn't take very long. And the kid with super speed is going to be like, for me, it took 10,000 years. Because I want to bring attention to the fact that most speedsters are aware of every second that passes for them in their mind. So, like, if it takes you a 1 second to run 100 miles, you'll remember every second that you would normally remember at normal speed of that 100 miles. And I just thought that'd be an interesting joke to throw in there, like meta commentary on how stupid speedsters are written.
Honestly, that's one of the things that I absolutely loved about the Evan Peters version of Quicksilver from
Right.
from X-Men Days of Future Past. He perfectly captured, to me, the personality of somebody who lives life 100 times faster
Oh, what happened?
than we do, and who may have grown up faster than we do. Like, there's a popular fan theory that his character is only 5 years old, and that his body just aged faster than everybody else. And I'm like, yes, that is exactly how I'd expect a 5-year-old and a 20-year-old's body who has a constant need for novelty and a constant need for dopamine to act, and he perfectly captured it.
And that, I definitely get that, yeah. I have never seen that. Sorry, weather's changing and my sinuses are acting up. But I've never seen that theory floated around before. Personally, like, I love Evan Peters as Quicksilver, but personally my favorite Quicksilver is Aaron Taylor Johnson from the MCU. Because I'm a massive MCU shell. Like, it is one of my favorite film franchises of all time. But B, because I believe they captured the reality, I guess, of someone with super speed. They wouldn't be, like, running around with swords and stuff attacking people. They'd be running into a fight, pushing someone over, or messing with someone and running away. And especially someone born in a foreign country who had to go through all that trauma as a kid and stuff. That it just showed, like, he jokes about a lot of stuff, but it makes sense for his character. And while, yes, I'm not a big fan of how they got rid of him, it makes sense in that he was shown earlier in the film to be somewhat slower than a bullet. He was faster than a pistol bullet in the scene in the mansion, in the tower, sorry. But earlier in the fight scene, you saw him fighting next to Wanda, and a bullet ripped through his arm. And he didn't know it was coming, he couldn't see it. And so it would make sense for someone who literally just got shot to see the Ultron bot about to attack Clinton the child and think, I'm not going to let this Ultron Century take out that kid. I don't care if Clint is safe or not, though. So, and honestly, I'd think in his mind, it's just like, they need safe. I'm the only one who can save them. Henceforth, he stands in front of the bullets.
did not see that coming. I like that.
And it's like I've seen like a lot of people I've talked to about it say that I'm like so wrong, but it's like maybe I might be wrong because I know the reason that they killed Quicksilver there because he was in the X-Men films and they didn't want to get confusing. But even then, it's just like if you don't find a reason in the film franchise, then are you even a film fan? And now I'm joking by that, but it's silly if you can't defend even a decision that you don't agree with.
I mean, yeah, there's the anti-Thermian answer of like, why did they kill him off? Because the studio needed to. And then there's the Thermian answer of like, is he faster than a machine gun bullet kind of thing that you were talking about. Um, and I love that you are just like unabashedly happy about the MCU. A lot of people are really frustrated and tired, and I'm really glad to see somebody who's like, no, I love these things. I am so happy that they're here.
Well, that actually leads me into another question. Give me one second. I had to readjust the uh, video because I had accidentally changed the size again. So let me pull up the next question. And this one it's a big standing point for me because of what it contains. All right. So next one. What is your opinion on famed director Martin Scorsese and his comments regarding the MCU films as not cinema? Now, if you need, I can pull it up and like
Oh, no worries.
basically
I know
tell you.
exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, you can't be a film fan without having heard about this. I'm not trying to gatekeep. I'm just like,
Right.
everyone was talking about this.
Oh no, I
Um,
agree. I
yeah,
completely agree.
yeah. So my opinion on it is that all films are cinema, whether we want them to be or not. My opinion on it is that Monty Python is cinema. My opinion on it is that your
Monty
TikToks
Python
are
is
cinema.
the cinema.
My opinion is that literally everything that has been filmed is cinema. And the reason why I say that is because otherwise the word cinema becomes a value judgment and a way to criticize or condone a work instead of a description. And my
Right.
definition of cinema is basically just film, but in a higher register of speaking. English has this weird thing where we try to have every sort of register and every sort of tone captured in our language, and so we'll have three different words for the same thing. We'll have, or four or five, we'll have like flick, movie, film, and cinema. But that's
Right.
not a value judgment. That's just a register and a tone of speaking. We say flick in very informal conversation. We say movie in standard register. We say film in a slightly higher, in a slightly more formal register, and in a very formal register, we'll say cinema. But that's
Right.
not a value judgment. That's just how English works. That's just a register and a tone.
And that definitely makes sense. Yeah. But I guess you can also see like where each of the four films are, or those four words are used. You usually see the word flick thrown around as in informal conversations or talking about a low budget, high octane film or like a chick flick when you're trying to discredit something. So like guys will say, "Oh, she's watching them their chick flicks again," or you get somebody who's saying like, "Yeah, I'm going to see this brand new director flick. It's supposed to apparently it's a this dumb action movie, but it's like it's amazingly funny sort of thing." You then see
Or
movie.
a
It's just
slasher flick.
true. And then you see like movie, just general conversation. Like you go to the movies. I'm going to see the new movie, the new Marvel movie, stuff like that. And then when you get to like film and cinema, you think like cinema is that sort of term that mostly like high posh people use. Like, I'm going to the cinema to go watch the new movie, or I'm going to see the new
Or I
cinema.
saw this I saw this beautiful piece of cinema a little while ago. But
Yeah.
like you only use the word cinema if you're going to use a long A and make it cinema.
Cinema.
But
And
yeah,
it doesn't.
like you
And
said, the
cinema
word
doesn't.
cinema is
Go
not
ahead.
about the movie itself. It's about the person describing the movie. It's a posh person who's swirling his brandy and wearing a tuxedo. It doesn't matter what type of movie it is, it's the type of person who describes the movie and the context that we're describing that movie in.
But even then, like, I don't think cinema was ever meant to describe a single movie. It's meant to, at least for me, describe the entire, just the industry. Like, it is cinema. It is visualized media with audio, sometimes not audio if you're looking at older films, that's put on a massive screen. Like, when you say you're going somewhere, most people say the movie theaters, but you can also say going to the cinema. That's why most places are called, it's like Regal Cinema or AMC, something something cinema. I don't know what the A and the M stand for. But
And for
cinema,
that matter, like, go ahead, go ahead.
okay. But like cinema is just used to describe what the industry is in itself, and film describes what you're watching. It's a film. It's been filmed. So personally, I
And
think.
for that matter,
Go ahead.
cinema is a mass noun, kind of like water.
Exactly.
Water is water, no matter how much of it you have. It's not like you can have plural water. It's not like you can have singular water. It is a mass noun. In the same sense, cinema, you don't see a cinema. When we're talking about like a movie, we're not.
Right.
No, I don't mean like going to the cinema to see a movie, like going to the cinema in the sense of a movie theater. I mean, like, when you go to the cinema, you don't see a cinema in the same sense as you don't, I don't know, drink a water. You
That's
go.
probably not the greatest.
It's not the
thing you
best
can say.
analogy, but it's the
Here's
only
why.
thing I
Here's
can
why.
think of off the top of my head.
Here's why.
The point, because you are currently holding a water.
I have 2 waters.
You
This
have
one's
2
a-
waters.
I had a Coke and 2 waters.
Yeah, I can't think of a good. I can't think of a good analogy to describe what a mass noun is, but the point is, like, you don't go to see a cinema, you go to see a piece of cinema.
Right.
A work of cinema. Like you said, cinema is the art form in general, not a specific work of art.
Right. And in this specific scenario, I don't think you needed an example, because cinema in and of itself is already a perfect example. Because for those of you listening at home who maybe can't understand what he's saying, try making a sentence where you say, like, I'm going to watch a movie, but replace the word movie with cinema. It doesn't work. It doesn't feel natural in English. For our brains, it doesn't feel natural. And so I think it's a perfect example of that mass noun thing. And it's probably one of the few words that we can say are mass nouns, except for maybe depression. Because you can't say, I have a depression. You just have depression. Or you have anxiety.
Okay,
or you have a pain.
music.
True.
Music is another really good example of a mass noun. You don't listen to a music. You don't say, yeah, I need to do 3 more musics tonight. That, unless you're, like, intentionally speaking in doggo speak or meme speak, you don't. That's not how English grammar usually works. It feels weird. Instead, you say, I'm listening to a piece of music, or
Right.
I listened to some music. I watched a work of cinema. I watched some cinema.
Right. You can't singularize either of those words. They have to be plural, or else they just don't work in how we communicate in English. Or any other language for that matter. Which, the strangest thing, this is off topic, but in Asian countries, their language is technically Yoda speak to us. Because, like, my mom's learning Korean, and the way we would say to eat an apple, it's I ate an apple. But from what I can tell, when my mom's learning Korean, they say an apple I ate. They don't say I ate an apple, it's an apple I ate. Which is so strange to think
Subject
about.
verb.
What? But
Sorry, I
no,
really
it's
like
good.
Linguistics.
It's all good.
And so I'm like, oh, there's an example of object, subject, verb. I've been wondering.
But it's like, technically, we're saying it wrong compared to everyone else on the planet. English is technically backwards to most other languages, but because we grew up learning English and doing it, like I ate an apple rather than an apple I ate, it just seems wrong to us. But we're not in the right. Oh, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? There's a fly on the camera. It's on the lens too. Get off! Good lord! Wow, such professionals.
So, yes, that is why I treat all movies as cinema. I treat all film as cinema, and I don't try to like use cinema as a value judgment. That said, if other people want to use cinema as a value judgment, I totally understand. I'm glad that Martin Scorsese said what his definition of cinema is and what makes it cinema to him. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I understand where you're coming from.
Right.
I choose not to use that word in that way, but I get it.
Right. And for my opinion, I think he's wrong. As I said, that's an opinion. I think he thinks too highly of himself, personally, on the films he's made, because he's made some good films. I personally don't like them, but beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Art is a subjective thing. I can't tell you what my favorite film is and expect you to like it the same way. Like, for example, my favorite film of all time to watch, the one I get the most enjoyment out of, is Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, the worst of the entire series, but I get the most enjoyment out of that film than anything else. Like, it tops my list in terms of enjoyment, but what tops my list in terms of this is a good movie that I also enjoy is Infinity War. So I have to have two lists because, like, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen is just a blast. Like, it's a bad movie, but it's a blast.
Dude, I am so glad that you have so much fun with it and that you enjoy it so much.
Like, my favorite part of the whole film is the sequence close to the end where the twins are going up against Devastator, and there's the formation of Devastator, and the fact it's just a big monster, a big metal monster, and then he starts scaling the pyramid, and you get that the joke with the Sector 7 guy and the wrecking balls. Every time that joke makes me laugh.
Are the Transformers movies kaiju movies?
I don't think maybe.
Like, this is
Maybe.
coming from somebody who has only seen Transformers 1 back in
Right.
2007 when it first came out, and who has
Oh.
only seen, like, Pacific Rim out of kaiju movies, and, like, a couple of episodes of TV where they would do a kaiju episode.
Okay.
Miraculous Ladybug does a surprising amount of kaiju episodes. I'm just like, wait a minute. Is Transformers a kaiju franchise?
I think you could make a claim for the second one, Revenge of the Fallen, because they have Devastator, and he's about the size of the Great Pyramids of Giza. However, normally the Transformers are about 2 stories tall, if that. They're not that tall. Well, there are some that are like massive, and later on in the series, you do get more larger Transformers. But I don't think the only Devastator comes anywhere close to Godzilla height or King Kong height or the kaiju's in Pacific Rim. So I guess you can make a claim for the second one, but all the other ones, I think they're just what would they be called? I don't think there is
The
really a
reason
genre outside of action for those action
over the
comedy.
top action adventure, over the
Yes.
top high octane action adventure movies. The reason why I suggest maybe they're kaiju movies is because I've heard a lot of people say that the best way to watch Transformers movies is with the same perspective as kaiju movies. Now that doesn't make them kaiju movies, but like a lot of people say like don't worry about the human drama. The human drama is not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is to watch big things punch each other
I
and to watch explosive action sequences. And I'm like, that's called a kaiju movie.
that if that does make sense, that definitely does. For me, I see it more as like more as a spectacle film than a kaiju film because like from all the reviews that I've heard of Dune so far, and I cannot wait for that film. I've heard that the story takes a backseat to the visuals, and apparently a lot of people like Straw Hat Goofy on TikTok, I'm pretty sure it was him, said that this film is is to him one of the most beautiful films he's ever seen. Now, if it wasn't Straw Hat Goofy, I'll put out a retraction next week. But I'm pretty sure it was him. He's awesome. I would love to have him on the show. But I think it was
He's
him that said,
fantastic. I love his unabashed joy and passion for
yes.
film.
He did have one opinion on a film that I didn't agree with, but that's more of a religious thing than anything else. So I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to stir up a religious debate in the comments, which is gonna
And
happen
besides,
anyway.
like, you you should expect different people to have different opinions and perspectives on art.
Right. But no, I would love to have him. Honestly, if I could have you and him on the show at one point and just get super fan and filmmaker talking about the art, that would be incredible.
Dude, I would love to do anything with Straw Hat Goofy. His mostly just because of his sheer passion and love, and I'm like, dude, I want to be around you talking about movies. I I want to be in that atmosphere and that tone and presence.
There are a lot of good film TikTokers. You, Straw Hat Goofy, the dude who does the IRS skits. I forget everybody's
Nikhil
names.
Clayton,
Nikhil
he's
Clayton.
fantastic. Jay Stoobs, Ken of the Vampire Slayer. They have really good, really nuanced opinions.
Definitely. And then there's the one guy. Trying to remember names. Cannot remember them. He's got the mohawk. He is like obsessed with like the Bat family.
The Panda Red.
The Panda Red. There we go. I am
Honestly, like
so
the
bad
Panda
with
Red
names.
was the reason why I started doing any of this.
I have been on TikTok longer than all of these fellas, and it's insane to think about. Like these guys have like 5 times the amount of followers I will ever have, and I've been on TikTok for years longer than they have. Like people like Beer Bong John, it's insane. Some of these guys and gals, obviously. Like yeah, I'm Caroline, so popular, so famous. Bella Porch just went straight through the roof, and then you've got the king, Gabby Lame. He
And to
is.
be honest, I've been on TikTok for like 5 months, and half the time I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
I
Who are all
feel
these
ya.
people?
Dude, I
What
feel
is
ya.
this berries and cream?
Oh, I hate that sound. Like that sound is my least favorite thing that's been on TikTok in a long time. And that's saying something because of how long I've been on the app.
Fair, fair.
Oh, it's just like
Anyway,
I'll scroll to a video and I'll hear berries and cream, berries. It's just nope. If you put that sound on there, you're losing my attention. And then Film Theory, of all places, did a video on using that sound as their premise and got the original actor from the commercial to record a segment, but instead of saying berries, they had him say theories and cream, and I wanted to punch my monitor.
Well done, Matt Pat, for getting that set up.
I was not happy about that, but hey, it's Film Theory. What are you gonna do? Like, just all right. Let's see. Those got the asterisk. All right. So we're gonna jump 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 ship to a new topic. Well, new-ish topic. So based on your experiences, how important is selecting the right song/instrumental for a specific scene? So, for example, in The Guardians, picking the Pina Colada song for Peter Quill's jaunt through space, or choosing whether or not to have a big musical like crescendo in the theme when the hero stands triumphantly over on a mountaintop as he's about to race down to attack the villain, sort of thing.
So something that I assume a lot of people don't know about my work is that I'm also a composer.
Did not know that.
Like I scored the theme songs for a couple of TV shows back a couple years ago. The TV shows never aired. Um, I scored a couple of my own short films, and in the process, what I learned is that, and I'm trying to not sound pretentious about this, music is a tool of film. It is one of many. It is just as important as the visuals, as say the camera angle or the pacing of the edit.
Okay.
But I don't think that it's more important than any one other tool. I think that I don't know, changing the camera angle or changing the color grading is going to do just as much as changing the music. The music is just more obvious and easier to mess with. Like it's easier to create an edit where you see Darth Vader walking out of his ship and Grand Moff Tarkin looking at him, and then you replace it with romantic music than it is to do the same thing but change the camera angle or the color
Right.
grading or the pace of the edit.
Right.
So I think that's part of why we put so much emphasis on the music as both a composer and director and sometimes director of photography and like everything. I'm just like, you know what? It is a tool and it's just as important as every other tool.
Okay.
That said, it is as important as every other tool. Like getting the right piece of music is just as important as getting the right camera angle.
Right. Right. Personally, like as someone who is not in film yet but has been watching a lot of film and just like studying, like I can't go to the movie theater and watch a new movie anymore. Like I do it, but I don't watch the movie. I watch every scene and I pick apart everything. And it killed me in Shang-Chi because that film is beautiful, but I had to focus to make sure that I wasn't picking apart every piece of that film. But anyway, um,
Seriously,
personally,
that film is just visually
oh, it was
gorgeous.
gorgeous. Until it got to like the final battle with the Mega Soul Sucker, wasn't that big of a fan of that portion of the film. Like I loved the fight between Shang-Chi and his father, but once the Mega Soul Sucker came out and it was the Mega Soul Sucker versus the Great Protector, I thought, CGI is awesome. It's not Black Panther CGI, but it's not as interesting anymore. But anyway,
I was just like, whoa, is Marvel doing a kaiju movie?
oh
Again,
that
I don't know what a kaiju movie is, but I was
right.
like, whoa, this is super cool that they're even doing this at all.
I think that counts. I think Shang-Chi it doesn't it's not a kaiju film, but it's got a kaiju fight. But anyway,
Okay,
um
cool. Yeah, I don't know anything about that
right.
genre. I don't pretend to.
Well, I don't
I'm
either.
just like, ooh, cool. Big
Well,
monster.
yeah, I don't know anything about it either. I just watch Godzilla and think, "Ooh, big wizard." Um but as
Pretty much.
but as somebody who is not in film yet but wants to get into it, like camera angles are very important, especially when you're filming a dramatic scene. But I personally think that music is a little bit more important. This is my personal opinion because you can have a bad camera angle, but if you score it with the right music, it will still send shivers down your spine with the same way that it would if it was in the right position. Now you got to work overtime if you're scoring a badly shot scene to make it work, but with the right music and the right atmosphere, it can work. So like let's say, using your example, we've got Darth Vader in the ship and he's walking down the ramp to Moff Tarkin. You could have an angle that's behind one of the legs, peeking out slightly, so you see mostly the legs, and then off in the distance, you've got Tarkin. You see the back of Vader's cloak coming down the ramp, and you score it to something light. Like you put it in a place where it looks intimidating. You could score it to something really light, somewhat with like a sinister undertone, and it would work. But then if you moved the camera angle to be looking, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a bad camera angle, and I can't think of one. Because
One
like,
thing that I've learned. Go ahead, go ahead.
oh, because like, if you were to then put the camera, like, you've got the two actors here, and they're facing each other, and the camera is like all the way over here, so like right here, and they're walking towards each other, and you play something sinister, that would be a great camera angle for that scene. Just like, because it's kind of like the scene from The Last Jedi with Luke and Kylo. If you put it behind Tarkin, it's got the same atmosphere. And if you put it above them, it's got the. It's like I can't find a bad camera angle for this scene, and it sucks.
One of the things that I've learned as a director, as somebody who's worked in a lot of positions, and as somebody who studies film, is that when it comes to which position is more important or which part is more important, I think that it really comes down to making sure everybody is on the same page. Like
Right.
literally everybody is working toward the same goal, and if that happens, then you just hit it out of the park. And if I don't know, the set decorator isn't on the same page, or the composer, or the colorist isn't on the same page, then
Colorist.
it's not going to come across as well, and it's not going to work as well. And that's part of why I say, hey, I don't think that any one position is more important than another. I legitimately think that as a director, I am as important as the PA or the security guard.
Right. And that's definitely a great
Um,
mindset to think about it in, especially when it comes to like you have a whole team and everyone's part is equally as important. Now, I am under the belief that some positions are a little slightly more important to the final product than others, but not massively to the point where you can be like, "I'm better than you." But more in a sense of like um if we get the lighting wrong, then the whole shot is going to go off. But if we get the camera angle slightly wrong, we can sort of fix it by cropping the final product differently, or scoring it just slightly differently. So there are definitely some positions I feel are a little bit more important, but those are usually the behind the scenes, the lighting, the writing, the boom mic positions are more important than the music for the scene. Because if you can't hear the actors, the music ain't gonna do anything. Like if you're supposed to have two actors talking and you can't hear what they're saying, all the music's gonna do is make it a little bit more obvious that that was the problem.
yeah, I can absolutely see where you're coming from.
But again, it's not to the point of like I'm a camera operator or I'm a boom mic operator. That means my job is so much more important than yours, you lowly director. The dude who gave me this job, the dude who's putting this vision onto the screen.
Yep, I'm with you.
All right, so okay, what did you turn off? All right, let's see. Let's grab. Let's see. All right. Should we be good lord. Should we be giving more focus to smaller indie studios rather than multimedia enterprises, or do you think that the way we're doing it now is a sustainable way?
Please understand, I am not an economist.
Gotcha.
Um, this is a very difficult question for me to answer
Okay.
because I think that more art is good.
Gotcha.
Like
Gotcha.
I kind of just like start with that premise of more art is better, and there is an occasional piece of art that is unforgivable and indefensible, like Triumph of the Will or something like that.
Suicide Squad. I'm
No.
kidding. I hate that film, but I would not say it's unforgivable. It was
Oh,
made
I
better
say
by the
Triumph of the
sequel.
Will because like Triumph of the Will. Okay. Do you know what this film is?
I do not know. That's probably a good thing.
Okay, Triumph of the Will is a 1935 documentary. Literally, the premise of it is that Adolf Hitler personally called the director and said, "Make me a movie that makes Nazis look good,"
That's definitely unforgivable. Yeah.
and it worked.
Of
Part of
course.
the reason why Adolf Hitler had so much power, and part of the reason why Nazism spread so well, is because of Triumph of the Will. Adolf Hitler was the most beloved person on planet Earth in the 1930s.
Ooh,
It
that
was
didn't
the
age well.
back in the 1930s, it was the unpopular opinion to dislike Adolf Hitler. The same way as like today, it is an unpopular opinion to dislike essential employees, or back right after 9/11, it was the unpopular opinion to dislike firefighters. Back in the 1930s, you were the weird one if you didn't like Adolf Hitler, and that was in part due to Triumph of the Will.
That
That's why I say that movie is indefensible. It was such an effective piece of propaganda that to this day in Germany, it is illegal to show Triumph of the Will unless you strictly show it in an educational context.
right,
And it is a very useful piece of educational context because today it's used as a textbook on how to glorify a subject. If you want to
right.
make someone seem like a god, you watch Triumph of the Will, and then you watch anything Zack Snyder's made,
Oh my god.
and you do what they did, and they look like a god.
I mean,
Yes,
Zack
that's
Snyder.
why I say
Zack Snyder is he can make beautiful films. Like him and Michael Bay are in the same boat of Story doesn't matter. Give me freaking explosions, and they can craft some of the most beautiful films you've ever seen. But I get where you're coming from. He can make anybody look incredible, even if the writing is terrible at best.
Yeah, I mean, one reason I believe, now I haven't seen Watchmen, one reason why I personally believe that so many people think that Rorschach is the good guy is because Zack Snyder directed it and because he loves to make people look awesome. He loves to make people look like gods. And so he did that for Rorschach. Now that's my personal opinion,
Right.
having not seen Watchmen. I probably shouldn't say that opinion very often until I actually watch the movie. Anyway, the point is there are some films that are indefensible. There are some films that should not exist.
Agreed. Well,
Like Triumph of the Will.
so I actually have a differing opinion on that. Like, I don't think that the context of that film should have ever been put to screen. But I also don't believe that any film should not exist, because every film was created for one reason or another, whether it's bad or good, and it's always good to have said piece of media to look back on and see, okay, is this a good thing to learn from, or is it a bad thing to learn from? And Triumph of the Will, it's one of those gray areas where it's like, it's a terrible movie made for a terrible person with a terrible agenda, but we have it, and it's something to look back on to show how easy it is to slip into uh like that mindset of I will make something for the highest bidder, and see how drastically different that person could be from once you purchase it. Because I don't know whether or not, I guarantee you at least somebody working on the film knew about the atrocities going on in Germany at the time. I don't think he started rounding up the Jews yet. I think that was during the 40s when that started happening. But I guarantee you at least one person knew who Adolf Hitler was when the film was being made, but everyone else had no clue probably. I guarantee you barely, because barely any negative press got out of Germany during the 30s before the war. Before the bombing of Pearl Harbor, before we started in the war, we didn't know too much. It wasn't until I think it was 1943 that American citizens heard for the first time about what was going on in Germany, about what the German government was doing to the Jewish population. It it was not common knowledge for a while. Like, the leaders knew, but the leaders didn't tell the people, which I think is one of the worst mistakes you can make as a governor, is not telling your citizens what's going on around the world. Because then you get a situation like in The Last Jedi, again, with Poe and Holdo, and she's not telling him what they're doing, and Poe decides, you know what? Screw you, we're going to mutiny now. But
Yeah, I really like that perspective of Triumph of the Will is something to learn from, both as filmmakers and as historians. The reason why I bring it up is like it is one of the very few exceptions to my starting premise of art is good, more art is better.
right.
So from there, I'm like, okay, is it more valuable to have more pieces of art, or is it more valuable to have a few pieces of bigger art that connect to more people?
I would say it's better to
I'm like,
have
I
more art.
legitimately don't know.
I think personally it's better to have more art than less. Because even if the market ends up getting oversaturated with low budget, low cost art that like no one put any thought into, corporate nonsense, at least in that pool of art there is something that everybody will enjoy. Even in like the thought of a few small pieces of good art, um you might have something that a lot of people like, but if you have more of a more mediocre style of art, there will be something that everybody likes. And even on top of that, the mediocre art might be a stepping stone to something greater for that director. And if that director's just not allowed to make it because we can't have a lot of lesser art, we might not get the Shawshank Redemption or Avengers Infinity War or was it Kane? Kane, not Kane. The 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 greatest movie of all time that everybody is always talking about. I
I
don't
think
know.
so too.
I don't remember. What?
I said Paddington 2. I know you mean Citizen Kane. I know you're
Citizen
talking
Kane.
about Citizen Kane.
I heard Paddington 2 is like one of the greatest films ever created, and I'm like, the first one wasn't all that great. I don't know how the second one could be the greatest film of all time.
Yeah, the first one is a standard 90s slapstick adventure comedy, like Mouse Hunt or something like that, with
Right.
some really effective camera angles. Like,
Oh,
that director
definitely.
knew where to put the camera during the first one. The second one is legitimately, I believe, the best movie ever made. I don't think we will ever get a better movie than Paddington 2. I think cinema peaked in 2017. That said, I don't think that we should pack it up and go home. I think that we should keep making more better movies. So here's why I think Paddington 2 is the best movie ever made. One,
Hang on.
because
I
it
gotta, I,
connects
I
with
gotta watch
me.
this film. I gotta watch this film.
One, because it connects with me in a lot of very personal ways. I love over the top. I love over the top adventure comedies. I love heist movies, and I love wholesome comfort core films. And Paddington 2 happens to fall under all three of those categories. Um, the Another big reason is because a huge part of the theme is if we are kind and polite, the world will be right. And that's a theme that resonates with me very personally and deeply. Now, moving on from the personal side of it, there are a lot of movies with really effective CGI where you can barely tell. Paddington 2 is one of them. There are a lot of movies with a really tight, efficient narrative. Paddington 2 is one of them. There are a lot of movies with a timeless theme. Not just a theme that's relevant today, right now, but a theme that's always relevant, like if we are kind and polite, the world will be right. There are a lot of movies with just a stellar cast or really effective camera angles, and Paddington 2 is one of them. There are very few movies that have all five of those things. Paddington 2 is one of them. And there are very few movies, I have never seen another movie use all five of those things to support each other in this cinematic Penrose steps. Like, the theme supports the plot supports the visuals support the theme. Like, everything supports each, or more specifically, the theme supports everything supports the plot supports everything supports the plot, etc. It is the only movie that I can think of to have everything support everything in that way. I've never seen another movie do that, and I'm like, this is it. This is the best movie ever. I don't think we can or will ever get a better movie because I don't think it's because it's the only movie that I've ever seen to have everything support everything and work that well. Now, do I think it's a perfect movie? No. But I think it's the closest we'll ever get.
I still am
Here's my
having a
ramble.
hard time. It's all good. I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that the first film was about a bear who comes to the United Kingdom and has to fight off a taxidermist. And the second film is apparently the greatest achievement in cinematic history. It's literally the children's version of Ted, and it's one of the greatest films of all time. How is this possible? It's a stuffed bear. Well, it's an actual bear, but it looks like a stuffed bear. Oh,
It's it's a it's an advent it's a comfort core adventure comedy with the style of Wes Anderson about a wholesome bear who tries to get a birthday present for his aunt and in the process winds up in jail.
what? Oh my gosh! I still remember in
Now
the
there are
first film.
only
I still remember in the first film he foiled a wallet thief, and now he's in prison. What is the escalation of this franchise? What is the third one going to be? He goes to war?
oh I
He
can't wait
ends
for the
up on
third
the
one.
Afghanistan front. He's in the war like, if we are kind to everybody, then the world will be a good place. And he's sitting out there like, be kind, firing a machine gun at Taliban soldiers.
Now, when I say that I think Paddington 2 is the best movie ever made, or when I say that it's my favorite movie, there are only two responses. There's either I haven't seen it, or yeah, you're right.
Well,
Okay, there is
technically,
a third response of, oh my gosh, yes, Paddington 2 is so great.
well, then there's
But
also
like,
a fourth response, which is why? Where did it go? How did it get this good?
Like the only people who have any like qualm about the idea of Paddington 2 being the best or Paddington 2 being my favorite are the people who haven't seen it. Please go watch Paddington 2 when you have a moment to do so. You can probably find it at your local library. You can find it at like a Walmart for $5 because nobody realizes that this movie is great.
I wonder. I
Unless
wonder
they've
where I can
like seen
find
it.
it. Let's see.
I don't think it's currently available on any streaming services. Don't think so.
Paddington 2. Let's see. Watch movie. Tubi. I can buy it on YouTube. I can buy it on Google Play, and I can buy it on Vudu.
You can buy it digitally on several streams on several digital purchasing sites.
Okay, so, uh, this film has a Rotten Tomato score of 97. For those of you watching who don't get this, it was at 100% a couple of months ago. It's gone down. It's got an audience score of 77, which is strange. It's got a 7.2 on IMDb, which again is quite strange. But 88% of Google viewers like this film. It's insane. This, I don't I don't get it. I don't get it. I have to watch this film to get it. It just doesn't make sense how it can be one of the greatest films of all time in a world where the MCU exists. Like, the MCU should Go ahead.
I will say part of the reason why I think this film is the greatest of all time is because it connects with me in very personal ways.
Right.
It may not connect with you in those ways. My roommate was like, "Okay, yeah, that was good. I get it. I understand why you think it's the best ever, but I don't think it's the best ever." Partly because it didn't connect with him in those ways,
Right.
and other movies did.
Right. Like, for me, my favorite films, or the films that I think are the greatest of all time, they have no connection to me. And the films that have the most connection to me, I won't watch again. Not because they're not great films, but because, like, I don't want to feel the feelings that they give me. Like, some of the greatest films that can hit me the deepest, I'm the most hesitant to watch again because I know that the story that is being told in that film is going to break me as a person, and I don't want to go through that again. Because even though I should probably watch these films and experience that to just get my life going again, I don't want to sit on my bedroom floor crying for 3 hours like I did the last time. But for me, I think
This is also part of why I didn't watch Bo Burnham's Inside.
I won't watch it either. I'll listen to the songs, but it just hits too close to home for me from what I've heard, from what I've seen.
Exactly.
But for me,
Same. I just know for my mental health I can't do it.
right. For me, though, I think the greatest film of all time that I've seen, mind you, is Avengers Infinity War. For the sole fact that they were able to weave together the collective 10 years of Marvel Cinematic Universe and set up in my opinion, the greatest villain in all of cinematic history, except for maybe the Mandarin now, because he was incredible in that film. But they did it in 2.5 hours, and they kept me engaged through every step of the way. I thought the CGI was impeccable, except for Bruce's head on the War Machine armor. That was kind of spotty. But everything else was impeccable. In a world filled with the Hulk and Cull Obsidian and giant spaceships and Thanos, I thought it was real. And that's, in a CGI movie, that is the highest praise you can get for the visuals in that film, is someone thinking that it's real and believing that that could have feasibly happened and looked exactly the same. Now,
That is pretty impressive.
it is very impressive. Now, Endgame is a close second in that it is just as visually stunning. It kept me going for 3 hours. It kept my attention, my ADHD attention, for 3 hours. And it still told a compelling story with a compelling conclusion that was able to fit in character moments that we've wanted to see and little moments for the audience that we could resonate with and we could grasp. Like Captain America wielding Mjolnir for the first time. Pepper Potts flying in her rescue armor like she did in the comics. All this stuff. The snap. Tony's snap. Banner's snap. The time heist. The first time travel MCU film was the biggest MCU film of all time, and it makes me so giddy thinking about it. And I'm losing my voice because I'm shouting so much. Okay. So I guess while we're at it, do you have any thoughts on the MCU in general? Just normal thoughts. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's overrated?
I enjoy the movies, and I'm impressed with what they've managed to do, that they've managed to weave so many different storylines throughout so many different movies in the same way that comic books do. At the same time, I'm not like a huge MCU fanboy. That's part of why I don't really talk that much about the MCU on my TikTok account. Like, I'll talk about it every once in a while. I'll talk about each movie, um, talk about what I liked about it. Probably because I do that for almost every movie that I watch.
Right.
It's very rare for me to watch a movie and not post, "Hey, here are some things that I liked about it." Um, yeah, I just treat it as, "Hey, it's another movie, and I'm glad to get to engage with this piece of art. I'm glad to get to experience this piece of art." Um,
Real
but
quick,
I don't like
while you're
treat it
talking, I
as.
gotta grab something. I gotta grab something real quick to show you.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
You can go ahead and keep talking.
I don't treat it as something big or something. Uh, I know that it is monolithic, but I don't treat it as monolithic.
Right, and that definitely makes sense. Now, you're not the biggest fan of Marvel. I'm different. I have this.
Dude, that's awesome.
I went to the uh re-release of the of Avengers Endgame, and at the re-release, they gave us everybody in the film. I'm trying to get it so that way the audience can see it as well. Come on, there we go. This painting, it's not like a painting. It's like it was a painting that was then copied and printed. I have this thing hanging
Reproduction of
above
a
my
painting.
bed, right? And that is probably my favorite picture that I have. In a room that doesn't have very many pictures, we've got a Minecraft poster, a picture of Dale Earnhardt Jr., a painting that I made, an abstract painting, an American flag, an Ohio State flag. This thing, hang on. I don't know if I can show this on YouTube, but screw it. We're doing it. Okay, come on.
To be honest, I'm not even sure what that is. Like, I can tell that it's sharp, or at least it's intended to look sharp, but I genuinely do not know what it is.
So this is a double-sided glaive. I keep forgetting you're not
Glaive.
watching from the same camera angle as the audience. So it's a double-sided glaive. Here's the best part. You ready?
Nice.
It is a
It's a
double
detachable double-sided glaive.
It is. I love this thing so much. Like
I don't blame you.
I love swords and weapons just as much as I love Marvel. And that's saying something. 'Cause I love Marvel.
That is definitely saying something.
I'm gonna put these up later.
No worries, no worries.
Put this down next to my couch. All right. So let's see. Okay, in the same vein, what's your thoughts on DC and the DCEU and their films?
Hot take. No. I think DC has already rebooted and just didn't tell us.
I agree.
At the very least, I think that it's useful to treat the relatively newer DC films as kind of a soft reboot. Whether it's Joker, the Batman, the Suicide Squad, Aquaman. Now,
Joker.
I treat those in a very similar way to like how DC was back during the superhero renaissance, where it wasn't a single connected universe and didn't have to be. Right. It was just a bunch of movies that they made. That's kind of how I treat DC's new movies. That said, I have really enjoyed every one of the DC movies that I've seen since, 2017? since Aquaman. So like Aquaman, absolutely loved it. It was just a big barrel of fun. Every shot was built for maximum impact. It's just such a
Right.
cool movie. Wonder Woman 84, I really connected with it personally in a way that really helped me. Um, the Suicide Squad, I really enjoyed it, and I think that it did a great job at what it was trying to do. Um, and I can't think. Shazam was a lot of fun and
Love
was
Shazam.
a great microcosm of the superhero boom. It did a great job at representing the extremes, the highs and the lows of the superhero boom, and kind of capturing every aspect of it. Um, so like, I really enjoyed each of those movies for what they were. At the same time, I'm like, hey, I get it. They're not the biggest thing. They're not the best thing since sliced bread.
Right.
Um, I just know that I personally really enjoyed them, and that's good enough for me.
Right. Personally, when it comes to the DC films, like I've seen all of them. In fact, the first film that went and saw when theaters opened up was The Suicide Squad. Just because James Gunn is an incredible director, and I love his work. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, two of my favorite films in the MCU. The Suicide Squad, my favorite DCEU film. Both Joker and the Batman are not DCEU canon. They're just Elseworld stories, so they're not even connected to the rest of the films, which I think is good for DC because of their track record. Like Man of Steel, in my opinion, was all right. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. Batman v Superman was a dumpster fire, in my opinion, that should have been taken in a different direction. Justice League, 2017's Justice League, was worse than Batman v Superman for me, and that's got something to do, like a lot to do with the director transition and how that was handled. But then Wonder Woman, the first one, loved it, incredible movie. 1984, not so much. It wasn't terrible. It's in the same boat as Man of Steel. Didn't like it as much as the first one. Shazam was a blast. Absolutely loved Shazam. Same with Aquaman. And the Zack Snyder Justice League is probably my second favorite DCEU film and one of my favorite films of all time. And it's also, in my opinion, a testament to both like listening to your fans and giving someone a second chance after they've messed up. Because like
That's one.
Zack Snyder didn't mess up technically, but like the film itself was a second chance for him to actually get his vision out, and it worked, in my opinion.
That's one thing that I really love about the DCEU is that they're okay on a metatextual level, on a level of the relationship between the audience and the films. I love that the audience is willing to forgive. They see a film like Suicide Squad 2016 that they don't like, and then they hear, okay, we're gonna try it again, and we listen to your concerns, and we're gonna try our best to do it right this time. And the audience is like, we're 100% on board. We're just gonna like basically forget that the 2016 Suicide Squad existed, except for the sake of comparative analysis, and just focus on the fact that you tried again and that you did better. Similarly, Zack Snyder's Justice League, a lot of fans were like, hey, we didn't like Justice League. Here are our complaints, and DC was like, we hear you. We're gonna try again. We're gonna try to do right by you this time. And the fans were just like, okay, we're on board. We're going to completely basically forget that Justice League happened, except for the sake of comparative analysis, and we're just going to focus on the fact that this is what they made now.
Right.
It's a beautiful testament to forgiveness.
Exactly. And I'm glad, although it took 2 years, 3 years for DC to finally be like, you know what? Fine, we'll let Zack Snyder finish his film. So it took a while, but the fans ended up working through, and we can also see that in the MCU. While not as big, you had Thor: The Dark World, widely uh, deemed as one of the worst MCU films. Not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. I enjoy it, but it is at the bottom of my list. And then Taika Waititi took over, made Thor Ragnarok. That movie sits in the second place slot on my MCU ranking. So we've got the worst film in my ranking to the second best film, only underneath Avengers Infinity War and above Avengers Endgame. And you can see
That's a big deal. Good job, Taika.
exactly. And like for the MCU, my ranking is literally within like two, like every film is within two points out of 10 of each other. Like the bottom film is like a 7 out of 10 and Avengers Infinity War is a 10 out of 10. And I don't like
Nice,
classify
nice.
them. I don't classify them as like 10 out of 10 is perfect. It's like I love this film. I will watch it all the time. It might not be perfect, but it is the greatest thing I've seen. And then 1 is like literally why? It's a piece of crap that you threw on the screen. It's a literal piece of human feces on the screen, and that's all it is. The only way you can get a 1 on any of my score is if you literally take a piece of poop and put it in a white room and film it for 2 hours. Like I hate this.
So the cremaster cycle.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh, that's actually the premise of the cremaster cycle. From what I've heard, I haven't seen it. I don't particularly want to, but
Neither do I.
it's a series of 4 art films that focus on the topic of human feces.
We'll never watch those. Thank you for letting me know they exist. But
I
like,
personally don't want to watch them either. I am glad that they exist. They go into other topics too. I haven't seen them. I'm not an expert in this topic. Point is just like, yeah, so that's what you're talking about, the cremaster cycle.
well, so what I was gonna say was the original Suicide Squad is at the bottom of my DCU ranking list, and even that film has a 4 out of 10 for me. I hate the film with a burning passion, but it does a few things right. I love Deadshot. I love Harley Quinn, and I grew to love Rick Flag, as well as there's Amanda Waller, who is incredible in the role in the films. So that film gets a 4 out of 10. Justice League is a 3.5, and that I despise that film. But not many films get that low on the list for me because I love movies.
Okay, okay, I can see that. I can see that.
Man, my sinuses are starting to kick my butt again. All right, let's see. Okay, so next question, if you're ready. Do you have anything that you could tell any young and upcoming filmmakers that may help them get ahead in the industry? Like any tips, tricks of the trade, stuff like that.
Love. That's it.
Okay.
First, love the art form of film. Watch the movies that you love and go watch other movies that you would have never seen before and find something to love about them. Go watch like the Universal Classic Monsters, or go watch like, I don't know, Japanese splatter films, or Italian neo-realist films. And go find something to love about them, so that when you go work on somebody's movie and they're like, yeah, we're doing this psychological thriller rom-com, you're like, that sounds kind of cool. I kind of want to work on that so you can, enjoy your time on set more. Speaking of enjoying your time on set more, love the craft. Love moving around stands. Love the process of setting up a camera. Love the process of being a PA and helping people out, or whatever else your position on set is. Love it. Do it because you love it. Don't do it for the money. It's terrible money. It's terrible working conditions. Terrible hours. Do it because you love it. And third, most importantly, love the people you work with. And I say that partly because it'll make your time on set more enjoyable, and it'll make their time on set more enjoyable. But also because if you are kind and decent and hardworking, people will bring you back and they will pay you more. I That was kind of my goal every time I went on set, was to get somebody to bring me back for another shoot. And in the process, one, being on set was the best form of networking I could have ever asked for. Because I was with people who were already in the industry, because I was building good relationships with them. It's not what you know, it's how you know them. If they like you, that's the most important thing. Now, the only other piece of advice that I can give outside of love is learn to communicate well. Every part of filmmaking, to some degree, is a job about communication. Whether it's you're the director and you're trying to clearly communicate your vision, or you're the security guard and you need to clearly communicate to outsiders you can't go on set right now, we're rolling, or whether you're the DP and you need to discuss things with the director and make sure that you and the director are on the same page and give good ideas to the director, or whether you're the PA and you want to be able to communicate well to the people you're helping so that you make sure that you're actually helping them the ways that they need, or whether you're the craft PA and you're able to communicate well to the people who are coming for an oasis from the stresses of set and who are coming to get some food, and you're able to communicate with them well about what kind of food they need. Literally every position on set is fundamentally about communication. If you can communicate and you can love, you will be the most successful person in your area of film.
That,
One last piece of advice: there is a film industry everywhere. You don't have to go anywhere to be in the film industry. There is an Ohio film industry. I worked in the film industry in Utah the entire time. Have you heard of any movie that filmed in Utah? There is a really there's a surprisingly big film industry in Georgia or in Vancouver, Canada. Like, no matter where you are, there's a film industry there. Go
yeah.
on Facebook, join some Facebook groups that say like film and the name of your area, and go apply for every gig. And eventually you'll get in. And you'll start working in the film industry, and you'll communicate, and you'll love, and you'll keep applying to new gigs, and you'll move up the ranks relatively quickly.
Well, those are some pretty good tips, and yeah. Now, um, I don't think honestly, I don't think it's that surprising that the film industry in Georgia is big. One of the best places to film is Atlanta, Georgia, and same with Vancouver. All the CW shows are filmed in Vancouver. Most movies are filmed at partially in Vancouver. Heck, Cleveland, Ohio, I'm pretty sure is where they filmed part of the Terminator 2 or one of those big 80s action films. But and that's really good advice for young people. Definitely like go even if you don't have a Facebook page, go on Reddit because I know kids are on Reddit these days. But get in touch with filmmakers in your area. I'm in a special position of if I can get this through, I can actually like be involved in the creation of an entire studio just based on what I want to do. But I'm also using Skillshare to boost my knowledge of the film industry so that way when I get to that point and I can start directing, I know what I'm doing. But yeah, I think lastly for today, uh, let's talk about some of the films and TV shows that you've been a part of, if you can. If you can talk about those. If you can't, that's fine. But I think it'd be really cool to hear like what movies you have played a role in.
No worries whatsoever. Obviously, I'm not going to break any NDAs, and literally every film production project that I've been on has had an NDA.
Okay.
Something that you may not know about the film industry is that like NDAs are really, really, really common. Any
Right.
leak that you see ever is somebody breaking their NDA. That's why I don't care about leaks. I'm just like, I'm not going to encourage people to break their contract. You made a contract, you signed the contract, keep the contract. Anyway,
Right.
um, gosh, so one of the things that Utah specializes in is Hallmark movies,
Oh no.
because Hallmark has, or at least had up until like the beginning of this year, a very strict policy for what kind of people could be in their movies. Like, you couldn't have any tattoos, you couldn't have any facial hair. And they knew that if they come to Utah, there are a lot of people who are already going to look like that, who already look like they're in a Hallmark movie because Latter Day Saints don't have tattoos, don't have facial hair, that kind of stuff. Um, So I worked on a lot of Hallmark movies to the point that there's a literal Hallmark season in Utah where basically everybody in the
Nice.
film industry in Utah works for Hallmark or doesn't work. Um, outside of Hallmark. So, gosh, I got to be an extra on High School Musical, the musical, the series.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to like look out for you while I'm watching that show. I haven't started it
Oh,
yet.
I am in the background. It's blurry. You can barely tell that it's me. But there are like two shots where you can see me in the background.
Nice.
One it's the back of my head, and one you can actually see my face. I'm a security guard in the background. I'm an airport security guard. Um,
Oh.
gosh, any other things that like people would have heard of? Like
You
I
said
have a resume, and I could like pull up the resume and be like, oh yeah, there was this and this and this. I was a runner, which is a PA who, which is a PA who doesn't work on set but goes and grabs stuff for the set,
okay.
for an MTV show called Double Shot of Love. Um, I did a lot of indie films. Whether it was like a student film where they were like, hey, we need somebody to play the pizza delivery guy. And I was like, dibs, I'll play the pizza delivery guy.
I'll
Or whether
I'll
it
play the
was,
delivery guy. Just let me eat the pizza afterwards. It's like, don't pay me. Just give me the
or,
pizza. I'll take the pizza.
or whether it was a friend of mine was making a post-apocalyptic, um, a post-apocalyptic, post-second ice age, I guess would be the phrase.
Hmm.
Uh, thriller, almost fantasy thriller.
Hmm.
Like it was a big deal. I'm surprised that he meant that this was an independent movie, because like this thing would require a big budget, and yet he made it on just like this absolutely tiny budget with his friends. And I was a PA for one day, and I didn't really do that much. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Mostly Hallmark. A couple really big names. I got to work on like HBO's docuseries Wall Street. So yeah, I got to work with like HBO, Disney, MTV, but mostly independent stuff at Hallmark.
Okay. That's that's actually really
What?
cool.
Okay, so now that I've said like a little bit of my resume, what do you actually want to know about about what I did? Because like I'm assuming that you didn't just mean, hey, brag to us about your resume.
No, that is exactly what I meant. Like, I wanted to hear like what films you were on.
Oh,
I
okay,
wanted to know if you
okay.
worked on like Iron Man or Doctor Strange or Harley Quinn I wanted to know what you've worked on because you said that you were you worked on award-winning films and stuff. So I wanted to know like what award-winning films or what films that I could have might have seen have you worked in, or just in general, what type of films have you been a part of?
Yeah, the most well known of that would be High School Musical, the musical, the series. There was one that
Obviously.
had a limited theatrical release in my area called Witnesses,
Okay.
that I got to kind of sort of work on, but not really. Sorry, that's not the point. As for like being a professional award-winning director, um, I made a found footage film that was explicitly intended to go to film festivals. That was the
Oh.
whole point of making this movie.
Okay.
Um, to the point that the last scene of the movie is the main character saying, I'm submitting this movie to film festivals.
Nice.
Like, it was explicitly to go to film festivals. That was the only purpose of this movie, because I wanted to learn, like, how do you submit to a film festival? How do film festivals work? And so I submitted it to way too many film festivals, and they were all free, and I got honorable mention in 2 horror film festivals.
Nice.
Which
Oh, that's
technically
awesome.
counts as an award, and now I can say that I was an award-winning director. As for
Oh
professional,
my god.
there was what?
You you took the technicality of that and that no, that's perfect. I love that. You found
It's accurate. It's
it's
accurate. I'm
accurate.
telling the truth. I won an award.
I I love that. That's awesome. That's
I know
awesome.
that when I say award-winning, people think that I mean
Right.
like an Emmy or an Oscar or at least like a golden chainsaw or a raspberry or a golden raspberry, and I'm like, it's an award. It was a film festival. I won an award. That's award winning. Um,
You are right. That is
sorry,
correct. That is correct.
I'm
That
not
is
trying to be
incredible.
technical about it.
No, no.
I'm trying to
You
own
be
my
as
achievements and
technical as you
not
can.
downplay my achievements.
You be
The
as technical
other,
as you
as
can.
for the
That's awesome.
professional side of it, there was a casting agent in my area who hired me to make demo reel footage for his actors.
Hmm. Okay.
He told me, okay, so here are your rules: 2 to 3 minutes, 4 to 5 characters, 2 to 3 scenes. Other than that, fun. Make whatever you want. You have full creative control past those 3 rules. I was like, okay, cool. I will go make whatever I want. And he paid me to do it. And in the process, I had a very, very, very small budget. I would get like a budget of $200 total to pay me and my crew. And I would bring on like a DP and a boom operator. And we would make this tiny little film. We would all get paid. And I would say, that's professional. That was a serious chunk of my income during that time. I'm not trying to be like, oh yeah, I got paid once, therefore I'm professional. No, that was a serious chunk of my income. That's part of how I paid rent.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's pretty. That's wow. That's pretty cool. Um, like your whole story going from the film industry to TikTok is really cool to me. Even if it's cool to no one else, it's really cool to me because I want to do the complete opposite, go from TikTok to the film industry. Um, and so I it was just hearing your story and what you've worked on and all this stuff is really like I've had a blast today. However, my voice is starting to give out and I have to use the bathroom, so I'm gonna end the episode here. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for coming on and talking about your experience. Would you like to drop your social medias for people so they know where to find you at?
You can find more of me on TikTok at Wholesome Film Talk. Talk being spelled T-O-K, like TikTok.
Ah, that is awesome. All right, and you can find me on YouTube. Search for the channel Broken Valor. It's brand new. Hopefully, it'll have have at least one video by the time this goes up. If you want to see my older work, you go to YouTube. It's Buddy8760_gaming. Buddy spelled with 1D because I was 9 when I made the account, and I have not changed it. You can find me on Instagram at Brian Shink, BRYAN_Shink, SCHINK. And you can find me on TikTok at Brian Shink, same spelling, no underscore. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys back here next week. Take care.